Hello everyone, I'm Jordana Van and welcome to Swan as a Spirit Guide. Now I have 3 Swan videos. So there's Swan as a Spirit Guide, which is this one, Swan as a Totem, and Black Swan and Black-Necked Swan, which is just for channel members. So this here is the video that you want if you've never really had any kind of interest in swans before or any big experiences with them, but now they're everywhere. If you feel that Swan is instead one of your personal guides in this lifetime, you've always kind of had an interest in it or it's shown up in a lot of ways, then it's more likely one of your totems, and you'll want to watch Swan as a Totem, Personality Characteristics, and Life Path Challenges instead. You can search YouTube for the video, but you can also go to my website, www.ravenlightholistic.healing.com, which has a complete alphabetized library of all my videos, so it's really easy to quickly find what you want. So before we get started, as of July 2021, I'm no longer seeing clients, new or returning, so that I can channel my full time and energy into creating a lot more new videos for you, and finally finishing the gazillion books I've been called to write. If you've been a client of mine, you'll want to visit my website as I've posted some information just for you. Now, since seeing clients has constituted more than 90% of my income, which I've now released, if you enjoy my work, your support will be one of the things that helps me keep doing it. And you can provide that by becoming a channel member, which is as easy as clicking on the join button next to the subscribe button, which is probably below this video. If you can't see the join button, which will be the case if you're using an Apple device or if you're using an Android phone and accessing YouTube via the web browser and not the app, I've included a link in the video description to the page on my website where I provide quick, easy, device-specific directions for making the join button visible. I know it sounds complicated, but I promise you guys it really does only take a few seconds. So what do you get out of membership? Briefly, not only do channel members help me create more of the media that you enjoy, but there are a lot of different perks, from membership badges and exclusive emojis to the ability to vote for which video I'll make next. So from now on, I am only taking video requests from channel members at the 2nd and 3rd tier, since if these guys are going to be the reason that I can afford to make more videos, they should be the ones receiving what they want. If a monthly commitment like channel membership doesn't feel good for you, but you'd still like to help, you can also visit my website, again, www.ravenlightholistic.healing.com, for instructions on providing a one-time financial gift. And those of you guys who've done this, thank you so much. Also, and oh my God, so much pre-video stuff. Thank you guys for your patience. Don't forget that if you want to be notified anytime I make a new video or a new community post, which is something I'm doing now, it's not enough to just click subscribe. You also have to click that little bell icon next to the subscribe button and click all. Otherwise, YouTube is going to choose which of my videos it thinks you will want to see, and that might be none of them. One last thing before we get started. What this video is intended to do is help you determine what Swan means for you right now. You can ask me, but I'm just going to point you right back to the video. That's because the message that Swan has for you, as with any other spirit guide, is absolutely inseparable from your individual experiences right now. So there are really no authentically one-size-fits-all messages. So as you watch the video, you'll want to be asking yourself, does this message speak to something that I'm feeling or thinking right now, or that I'm experiencing? If so, the universe wants you to work on that thing. It's that simple. 2, at the end of the video, I do address the messages unique to Black Swan and Black-Necked Swan. So you'll still want to watch the whole video because most of the messages that apply to all white swans could also apply to black or black-necked swans. But I wanted you guys to know that these guys would be covered individually. So let's start with Swan's messages around love, which is best explained by giving you just a little bit of info about how swans pair up in the wild. Unlike the majority of birds who pair for a single breeding season and then go their separate ways, swans do tend to mate for life. Scientists have recently discovered that they do cheat and they do divorce, though the latter usually only occurs when there's been a singularly bad breeding season. Additionally, unlike most other waterfowl, male swans help incubate the eggs so that the female can devote herself to eating and regaining the fat reserve she depleted while laying them. For this reason, swans have come to symbolize love and devotion to one's mate, an association further enhanced by the courtship ritual of the mute swan, in which the pair faces each other with ruffled feathers and lifted wings, bowing gracefully so that their curved necks each form half of a perfect heart. Swans are also sacred to the Roman goddess of love, Venus. So, swan often appears to those who've been in a space of a special longing for a long-term romantic partner, though there is nothing that we can do to hasten the universe's plan if we're not intended to meet someone right now. We can do what is needed to get out of our own way so that we can be ready for love when the time is right. So what does that look like? It means asking yourself a lot of questions about what you think a partner would bring to your life. Now, I have an entire video on what sorts of questions and how to go about releasing whatever is blocking you from finding a partner, called Hacking the Love Lottery, The Secret to Finding Your Perfect Partner, which you can find on my channel or again by going to my website and searching for it in the library. But a few of the more important questions when Swan is around are, first, do you believe that you require a partner to complete you? This is particularly likely if your numerological life path number, destiny number, and or soul urge, which is also called the heart's desire number, is an 11 or a 2. Or if you have a significant Libra or 7th house placement in your astrological chart. While another person may indeed enhance our lives to an extraordinary degree, we are often unable to attract them until we learn how to do what is needed to live our best life on our own. If you're often thinking, if I only had a partner, I could, it's time to find a way to do whatever it is on your own in a way that brings you joy, and accept that if someone is meant to join you, they will. Now, even if you believe that what you are yearning for is a romantic partner, it may actually be that what you really want is security, to know that someone will never abandon you. This need is rarely solved by finding a romantic partner, as no matter how vehemently they assure us of their love, we tend to always fear that they'll leave. So a history of feeling abandoned is fairly easy to spot. Were one of your parents or both of your parents emotionally or physically abusive or distant? Did they work long hours or suffer from illnesses or addictions that prevented them from caring for you? Did one or both leave? Have you experienced the death, especially a sudden death, of someone you trusted to always be there for you? Have friends turned on you? If any of these things have been your experience, healing will come through the soul work needed to discover a genuine connection to your higher self and to your own power to take care of yourself and create a truly marvelous life, not through finding someone to rely upon. The lovely irony being that it is most often the case that we connect with our own power, and then the person with whom we can share our marvelous life appears. We have to figure out how to take care of ourselves first. And again, if neither of these questions register with you, but you are really yearning for that romantic partner, watch the video I mentioned, Hacking the Love Lottery. It should help. Next, swans are extremely high maintenance as mates, and again, they do cheat. If we are in a partnership when Swan is around, it's a good time to ask ourselves if we are being a bit high maintenance ourselves. Are we expecting our partner to fulfill every need, to make our life a magical, romantic, sensual adventure all the time? If so, the last thing we should do is what most of us first want to do, which is to try to manipulate our partner into giving us those things. This is a great time to have a loving conversation with your partner about how you are feeling and how they are feeling. They may be going through something heavy that they haven't shared with you, and through being a good listener and gentle with their experience, you can help them move through it in the same way that you would want them to help you if your places were reversed. Then you can both get back to enjoying the heck out of each other. On the other hand, if you've been asking for signs that you ought to marry your present romantic partner, Swan would indicate that the marriage is likely to be an enduring one. Now, one of the most famous swans in literature is the lonely cygnet of Hans Christian Andersen's The Ugly Duckling. Mistakenly born into a family of ducks, the cygnet, who looks nothing like his brothers and sisters, is bullied, berated, and utterly convinced of his ugliness. After many heartbreaking encounters that only confirm his undesirable status, the cygnet at last stumbles upon others of his own kind, and he's shocked to discover that not only is he beautiful, but that he's adored, at which point, quote, he now felt glad at having suffered sorrow and trouble because it enabled him to enjoy so much better all the pleasure and happiness around him. The ugly duckling is harshly treated, largely because those who surround him have lived only small lives and are therefore ignorant. Combined with their arrogance and thinking that they know all there is, they treat the cygnet with disdain, rather than the appreciation we later realize that he is due. If people are judging you, it may simply be that they're ignorant. You may choose to attempt to educate them, but keep in mind they may not wish to be educated. After all, it's highly unlikely that the ducks in the story would welcome learning that they are not, in fact, the most beautiful of birds. If you yourself are being bullied, it's a good bet that you are convinced that you are ugly or unworthy or don't fit in. People tend to mirror back to us what we believe about ourselves, and so those who are bullied are often already in the most difficult places emotionally. It may perhaps be, too, that you don't actually fit with these other individuals, but this doesn't mean that you're unworthy or ugly. Not everyone is meant to love or even like us. If it were so, we would not have been born in such a variety of colors and shapes with such an assortment of talents, desires, intensity levels, and personality quirks. You will eventually find those who will love you and identify with you if you begin to focus on learning how to love and value yourself no matter what anyone else says or does. Also, don't forget too that the bully themselves is a wounded individual. You don't treat others that way if you feel truly loved and safe yourself. If you're being bullied, try to find it within yourself to feel some compassion for the bully, as they really are hurting as much as you are. You would not believe what this does to change the energy of the situation. The ugly duckling also gives us one of Swan's most uplifting messages. After many long, heartbreaking encounters, the cygnet finally finds his own people and is thankful for every moment of trouble, as it makes him better able to appreciate the joy he's found. If you are experiencing a prolonged period of suffering, focus on whatever lessons may be part of the experience, love yourself as much as you can, and trust that a relief and joy so big and bright as to make the suffering worth it are on their way. Now, according to legend, swans are voiceless until the end of their lives, when they sing with heartrending sadness and beauty just before they die. Now, this was, of course, proven false centuries ago, but it does continue to appear in literature. For this reason, we actually refer to someone's final performance of a professional activity as a swan song. So, it may be time to let something that has been a huge part of your life go. And you will know because you've been yearning to release it, or the universe has been making it increasingly difficult to continue doing it. I find it tremendously fascinating that I felt called to work on Swan even before I knew I was going to be stepping away from seeing clients, something I have been doing for many, many years now. So this Swan is kind of my swan song as far as seeing clients goes. So if you're in a similar boat, you're ready to release something you've been doing for a very long time, celebrate by doing it one last time with the greatest degree of personal awesomeness you can muster. It's like right now I am seeing the last of my long-term clients and enjoying the heck out of it. In a similar vein, someone in your life may be about to pass from this earth, and you're very likely aware as you are reading it or hearing this who that person is. Swan does often indicate a passing, but it's not an unexpected passing because the song lets us know that it's coming. So if this is someone you love, help them do what is needed to pass with as much grace, dignity, and acceptance as possible, having done all they came here to do. Next, those creatures like swans and dragonflies, whose lives are equal parts air and water, teach us to balance our thoughts and emotions, analytical tendencies, and intuitive urges. If your life is completely lacking in fantasy, creative activities, and feeling, start making time for these things. Whether that means trying your hand at watercolor, spending a few minutes each day daydreaming, or watching TV shows and movies that evoke a strong emotional response. If your life is lived more in the realm of fantasy than reality, so for example, if you spend your days playing video games but do not have a satisfying career or any real-life romantic relationships, unplug more and begin focusing on the physical life you are living. What can you do to help your real life bring you as much joy as your fantasy life? This is also an excellent time to begin learning how to trust your intuition if you haven't already done so. Beware going too far, however, though. For example, it can be tremendously helpful to ask your tarot cards to help you gain a clearer understanding of someone you've considered dating. But you will drive yourself crazy if you ask the cards about every item you are considering wearing on your first date. Remember, Swan speaks to balance. Now, swans are particularly notable for their long, graceful necks, creating an emphasis on issues to do with the fifth or throat chakra. Further, of the 7 swan species, 4 are named for a sound or lack thereof. The mute swan, trumpeter swan, whooper swan, and whistling swan, though in the case of the latter, the noise is made by the flapping of the wings rather than by its vocal cords. So, are you saying what you want or need to say, or are you mute? It may indeed be that it is best at this time to hold your tongue, but Swan would suggest that even if it's true, you're conflicted or unhappy about it. Either speak up or make your peace with maintaining your silence. If you can't speak your truth for whatever reason, you can also try music or another creative outlet to express what is inside you at this time. The neck and throat are where we most often hold feelings of judgment and anger. If you're coughing for no apparent reason, for example, you are most likely either judging yourself about something, judging someone else about something, or you are angry but not saying what you wish to say. Or you may be saying or thinking those angry things but judging yourself for saying or thinking them. These things are also among the most frequent causes of a sore throat. Guys, if you're always thinking to yourself, I should or I should not be doing something, or if you're thinking this about someone else, Swan is probably trying to bring your attention here. Shoulds are not good for us. The throat is also where we tend to hold emotions that we are frightened to feel, as the throat is the channel between the heart, where feelings first begin, and the mind, where they're understood and acknowledged and released. If you just keep trying to make yourself feel better, but you notice that it never seems to help for long, stop resisting those uncomfortable emotions and start feeling them. In this way, you will gain whatever wisdom they are attempting to share with you, and they will dissolve on their own rather than remaining locked in your tissues. And if you have questions about this process, I would really recommend going to my Facebook page, which is Ravenlight Holistic Healing. I talk a lot about the whole feeling your feelings process and why it works. Swans are frequently described as aggressive, but they are better described as defensive. Fiercely protective of their nests, swans will rear up dramatically like a cobra, spreading and flapping their wings, hissing and grunting. While this display is almost always a bluff, it does tend to frighten off all but the most determined predators. If someone around you is behaving aggressively at this time, it's a good bet that they feel threatened. Rather than reacting to them with anger, try to find out what's frightening them. You may be able to put their fears at ease and restore peace. On the other hand, are you being called aggressive or pushy when all you're trying to do is defend yourself and those you care about? This is a popular technique among gaslighters whose intent is to make the victim of their abuse think that they, the victim, are the ones in the wrong, making them more easy to manipulate. If someone is judging you for setting boundaries, they are probably the ones who are benefiting from you not having any. You do not have to apologize for protecting yourself. Next, Though it was not widely praised at its premiere in 1877, Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake, which premiered at the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow, is now one of the most famous ballets of all time, and many young ballerinas dream of playing the part of Odette, the Swan Princess. So if you've been feeling a need to add some form of dancing to your life, Swan is a strong affirmative that this would be of benefit to you. It may also be that you are yearning after grace and beauty that you do not think you possess. Everyone has their own unique charms and talents, but we tend to realize the best of these only after we have learned to love ourselves unreservedly. Lusting after what you do not think you have is only going to leave you feeling empty and angry. Begin focusing on what you already love about yourself, no matter how small it may be, and you will discover more and more to love. Now, Swan Lake tells the classic story of good versus evil, with evil passing itself off as good at one point when the villain's daughter, Odile, arrives at the ball bespelled to look like Odette. Thinking she's his love, the prince dances with Odile and proposes marriage, nearly resulting in disaster. If someone in your life seems to be especially beautiful and virtuous, don't let yourself be sold on the appearance alone. Really trust your gut here. If they appear perfect but something feels off, don't make any hasty commitments. Next, the swan's strong, gorgeous wings are the same as those most frequently depicted as belonging to angels. Additionally, white is the color most frequently associated with the divine, with innocence, and with purity of body and soul. Swan sometimes appears to remind us simply that we are not alone, that there is a benevolent divine power, whatever we believe that expression of the divine to be, that loves us and wants us to be happy. If you've been feeling especially despondent and Swan shows up, consider it as a sign of divine reassurance. Again, guys, nothing ever happens to us, no matter how it feels. It is all happening for us. Swan also arrives sometimes in the wake of someone's passing to let us know that our loved ones are okay. If you've lost someone about whom you care deeply and Swan appears, this is a reminder that your loved one is all right and all is well. Now, because of its link to our concept of purity, Swan may indicate that we are obsessing over our perceived sins or flaws, those things we believe are making us impure or worthy of condemnation. Nothing does more damage mentally or physically than guilt or self-flagellation, particularly if we are engaging in it on a regular basis. If you're judging yourself, begin doing the emotional work needed to let those judgments go so that you can recognize the innate perfection and holiness you will always possess no matter what you do or say or think. This tends to drive those who are obsessed with a mortal notion of fairness or justice crazy. But we do not have to be better to be worthy of a happy life. Instead, we have to accept that we are already enough, that we are deserving no matter where we are, what we've done, where we've come from, or what we have or have not accomplished. The difference between a happy person and a miserable person often boils down to their beliefs around deservedness alone. Now, every color has its own particular set of related qualities, so the appearance of a white swan, particularly if the thing that strikes you the most about swan is the color, often suggests that either you are presently developing the positive aspects of these qualities, or you are caught up in the negative aspects and need to do some self-work. Only you can know which is which. So the qualities associated with the color white are a sense of wholeness and connection with the divine versus feelings of singularity and isolation, ease versus effort, calm versus anxious, wisdom versus ignorance, spiritual versus religious, serene versus struggling, hope versus despair, optimism versus pessimism, and trust in the universe versus need to control. Lastly, let's talk about Black Swan and Black-Necked Swan, as they have some additional messages apart from those of the all-white swans. Black swans are often referred to as the impossible bird. The term Black Swan was first used by the Roman poet Juvenal in his satires around AD 100 to describe something so rare as to be impossible. No one in the Western world had ever seen anything other than a white swan at that point, so it seemed like a pretty safe statement to make. However, when Dutch navigator Willem de Vlaming encountered black swans in Western Australia, he showed the world the hazards of designating something impossible simply because it had never before been observed. Today, we use the term black swan to indicate an event that would be nearly impossible to predict because it's so beyond anything we'd ever observed before. So black swan may be indicating that something you would never have conceived of is about to happen. And this doesn't necessarily herald a challenge, something you have to grow from, so don't panic. For example, maybe your company gives you an entirely unexpected raise, or you meet the person of your dreams at the most humdrum, unromantic location you can imagine. We actually refer to these kind of dramatic, impossible to predict events as black swan events. Now, it may also be that you are intended to be the black swan. If you are contemplating something but keep holding yourself back because no one has ever done anything like it before, or you think it's impossible, the universe is telling you directly, go for it. The longer neck of the black swan means that fifth chakra, throat chakra issues are more likely to be emphasized, with the swan's darker color meaning that a plunge into your own inner darkness, often called the shadow self, is more likely in order. Be brave. When we face those aspects of ourselves that frighten or shame us, we move one step closer to letting them go for good, leading to an authentic expression of self and a genuine joy in being ourselves. Additionally, it is often the case that those parts of ourself that we fear or despise, when accepted, become the parts of ourself that we end up loving the most and for which we ourselves are loved. Now, how we feel ourselves about the color black is critical in interpreting what it means when we see a black animal. So if black swan arrives and you don't feel at all frightened, then the above meanings, the ones I just mentioned, are more likely to apply. However, if you find yourself fixated on the color and feel fear, your subconscious is attempting to direct you to parts of your life that frighten you and at which you are refusing to look. Most often, a fearful response to black swan suggests that we are frightened of losing our romantic partner, or we are frightened of our romantic partner, or something we think they might do. As I mentioned earlier, contrary to what most of us were taught to believe, swans do cheat. And so black swan sometimes symbolizes that we've become preoccupied with the fear that our partner is engaging in infidelity, in which case, stop sitting around ruminating about it and do what is necessary to get to the truth. Also, as silly as this may sound, as black swans are native to Australia, sometimes they simply mean that a visit to Australia or some research having to do with Australia are in order, if you, like me, live way the heck far away from Australia in particular. So if you've been interested in anything to do with the land down under, honor this feeling and start exploring. As for Black-Necked Swan, these guys' feathers are all white except for their all black necks. Black-necked swans are native to the southern tip of South America, so like with black swans in Australia, they may sometimes be telling you to pursue an interest in this area of the world. Given that our neck is our channel between the head and heart, black-necked swan can indicate that we are feeling super confused by what's going on with us emotionally. It's shrouded in darkness, or we can't see it clearly, or we are very upset about it. When we really begin to feel our feelings, a lot of us discover within us an incandescent rage that scares the hell out of us, or dark or taboo images and urges that frighten us. How can a good person feel something like this, we think, and try to shut it off? Don't shut it off. Feeling the dark urges or emotions doesn't mean anything about who we are as a person, guys. Not a darn thing. Emotions simply tell us how we are experiencing or experienced something, and the only way we learn what we need to from that experience, including what may need to change, is to feel all of those emotions no matter what. We can't make a moral judgment about them. And we do not need to know what we are feeling to feel it until it processes. This is why I tell clients to focus on the sensation they are feeling, however that is occurring within them, without trying to force it into a concrete box. If you can name the emotion, if you know I'm feeling angry, great. That can make it easier to feel it, but you don't have to. And when Black-Necked Swan is around, chances are you aren't going to be able to name what you're feeling, and you're just going to have to sit in that sensation of whatever until it goes. Black-Necked Swan can also indicate that we are surprised by what we say or create. We thought we were going to do or say one thing, and something totally foreign to us comes out. This is just the nature of Black-Necked Swan. Let whatever it is just be. There's a reason it happened the way that it did, and you're not going to learn what that is if you try to push it away or make it into something else. Lastly, Black-Necked Swans' legs are situated so far back on their body that while that makes them excellent swimmers, it makes it very difficult for them to walk on land. This presents a huge challenge in attaining enough speed to take off for flight. Once they're in the air, however, they are strong flyers, even able to attain speeds of 50 miles an hour. So here we have this critter that excels in water, the arena of emotion, creativity, imagination, dreams, intuition and healing, and in air, the arena of thought and communication, but not at all on land, the area of groundedness, practicality, and stability. Black-Necked Swan can indicate that we have become mired in the belief that to accomplish what we want, to get ourselves off the ground and into the air, so to speak, we have to be practical, to do all the right things, take the right steps in the right order. And guys, speaking as someone who has not been practical with regard to the pursuit of her dreams for years, I can tell you, practicality can be overrated, and I'm a Taurus. We are the queens and kings of practical. Black-Necked Swan reminds you that the impractical voice inside of you, the dreamer, knows what it's doing. Stop ruminating about what you think you should do to get what you want, or what you have to do first, or what you think has to happen to get your dreams off the ground, and take a chance on that mysterious voice within that wants to take certain steps just because they fill you with joy and enthusiasm. We never get to see the whole path, or frankly, even the next step after the first one we need to take. All we know in the moment is to do that one thing, which may not even seem to be related to what we are wanting to accomplish. And when we have done the one thing, the next step will be revealed. Black-Necked Swan says, do the one thing, no matter how crazy it seems or how frivolous, and then do the next one after that. With persistence, you will get your dream off the ground. So I hope this has given you guys some answers with regard to your swan experiences. Remember that if there's a video that you want to see, become a channel member at the 2nd or 3rd tier, and your requests will be added to my official video request list, from which I draw possibilities for the next video. When I'm ready to make a new one, I'll pick 3 animals from the request list, and 3rd tier members will get to vote on the one they want. And that's the video I'll make next. So right now I'm working on Blue Jay, which was requested and voted on by members. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Cheers!